Story 1. A colleague I worked with a few years ago arrived at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. We are not allowed to use cell phones while working, and he forgot his at home. He called his wife at about 6:15, waking her up, and asked her to bring his phone. She told him she would when the kids were awake, a toddler and a newborn. He insisted, "No, I need it right now." He made her wake up the sleeping kids for her to make a 1-hour round trip just to deliver his phone, which he was not supposed to be using anyway. What kind of person wakes a sleeping baby just so he can have his phone to play with because he's bored? Story 2. Hitting on my wife and acting cool when I see him, thinking I don't know about his behavior. He is married with kids. Story 3. Constantly trying to outdo others in everything. For example, if I have a motorcycle, he has a better one. If the conversation is about car maintenance, he claims to have built custom cars, but lacks any proof to back up his stories. This makes you question his honesty. Story 4. Individuals who show others explicit images of their girlfriend. I know a person who shared every angle of his girlfriend at the time with everyone he knew. They are now married with children, and those pictures are the first thing that comes to mind whenever I see her. It demonstrates a complete lack of respect and a breach of trust with your partner. Story 5. Just being rude. Always needing to get the last word and dismissing whatever anyone else says, even though they had valid points. Story 6. Cheating on a partner. If you cheat on a partner to whom you are committed, which should be your highest form of friendship, then what is my friendship worth? Story 7. A friend wanted me to move in with him so his girlfriend and I could support him indirectly while he grew magic mushrooms ordered online in a large quantity. He was a selfish person, and this situation did not impact my career at all. He ended up hitting her too. She left shortly after I did. Story 8. Arrogance, especially unearned arrogance, is unappealing. It is also unsettling when people refer to themselves as a god. It's unpleasant and suggests they lack self-awareness. Story 9. Putting his vices before his family, hard drugs, gambling, and seeing prostitutes, while having a fiancé and a daughter. Story 10. Sometime last year, I was at the bar. I walked in and there were the usual regulars except for one guy. He started talking to me, and I found out we shared many interests, such as music, video games, and hobbies. He seemed like a chill guy until he hit on a woman next to him. When he got rejected, he began rambling about how women are only good for 3 things, stating this is why there has never been and never will be a woman president, and claiming they are physically, intellectually, and emotionally inferior. I instantly lost all respect for him. Story 11. Catcalling women, being a toxic friend, saying hurtful things about others while being unable to handle criticism, always playing the victim, and never taking accountability. Story 12. Not cleaning up after his own mistakes. He made a mess at the worksite and didn't lift a finger to clean up. He needs to take responsibility for his actions. I was relieved when he got fired 2 months later. Story 13. A man tells another man he is submissive because he goes pumpkin picking with his children and misses the regular season football game. Story 14. Major victim complex. Everything bad in his life is because other people are mistreating him. He has never done anything wrong. Story 15. Not taking accountability for one's actions and holding misguided worldviews, such as racism, while forming opinions on topics lacking proper knowledge. Story 16. Acting morally superior to others in public, judging them for their beliefs and behaviors while presenting seemingly unattainable standards, yet harboring troubling thoughts and desires for relationships with women over 30 years younger with unrealistic expectations. Story 17. I finished a first date that went pretty well. He dropped me off at home and made fun of my mom, who was sweeping the driveway with her pants pulled up to her belly button. He asked, "Who's that?" I replied, "My mom," feeling slightly embarrassed that they met on our first date. He responded, "No way, you can't be serious. That's your mom. Wow, what's she doing sweeping the driveway looking like that?" I looked back at my mom, smiled at him, got out of the car, and ghosted him after he persistently called me for weeks asking for another date. I never talked to him again. Story 18. Since this is a serious topic and I have already commented on the actual answer, I'd like to share an experience where I gained respect for another person. When my girlfriend and I separated after 7 years, he gave me a house key and said to stay as long as I needed. There were no questions asked and no money requested. I moved out a few months later and left him $1,500 when I did leave. Story 19. For my husband, it was when his lifelong best friend in his mid-50s started messaging our daughter as soon as she turned 18. Story 20. Anyone who cheats on their spouse generally makes me lose respect for them. Cheating is bad enough in general, but if you've made a vow, a promise for life, and you break it, then you're not only betraying your spouse, but worse, you're betraying your own word. Why should I respect a person who doesn't even respect their own word? It suggests they aren't honorable, aren't trustworthy, and don't have enough self-respect to keep the commitments they made in front of everyone they likely cared for. Obviously, there are some exceptions, but it's generally a good indicator. Story 21. When he tried to show me a video of him having sex with a girl, proudly proclaiming how he hid the phone between pillows, I expressed my disgust. He then got angry and showed the video to a mutual friend of ours, who high-fived him, and they proceeded to say derogatory things about how I was not enough of a man. I confronted both of them as it felt so wrong, and I was just 19 at the time. Story 22. The alphas, Andrew Tate, the sigmas, or whatever they call themselves, honestly. Just be a good person. Be kind. We need more of that. Story 23. A colleague I worked with tried to get me to cancel my plans on my day off, so he and his girlfriend could spend time together, since they had both been working a lot. I almost canceled, but I found out moments later that he was lying, so I told him no. He then threw a fit and refused to talk to me or even look at me for the rest of the time we worked together. Story 24. Being a bully. Being racist. Denying scientific facts. Being unkind to an otherwise nice person. Cheating in sports. Exhibiting passive-aggressive behavior. Cheating in a good marriage. If cheating occurs in a troubled marriage, I encourage counseling or divorce. Story 25. I have a friend who does nothing to help his wife with their young kids when they visit, even when asked. Honey, I could use some help over here. In a minute. This is an important drive in the game. Story 26. They cheat on their significant other. I can't trust anyone who would cheat and lie. I had a friend who did this and then tried to get me to lie for him. I won't lie for anyone, so I basically just stopped hanging out with him. Story 27. I had a friend, and we went camping. He forgot his marijuana and was very upset about it, which ruined the whole trip. It was quite annoying. He couldn't go a day and a half without it. I stopped being his friend after that. Story 28. One cheated on his wife. One molested his daughter. One was racist toward me. I blocked each of them. Story 29. Boasting about success through work with new cars and traveling, when later you discover he was keeping quiet about a recent large inheritance. Story 30. This was many years ago, but I found out after they broke up that he used to assault his girlfriend on many occasions. He did not deny it and showed no remorse. Story 31. He hit his wife and thought it was the right way. What a fool. He is also poorly raising his children in a similar manner. Story 32. For me, when all he did was punch down instead of up on people he thought were lower than him, it ranged from appearance to someone's financial status. A side note. He later turned out to be a real piece of work in life, and everyone I went to school with dropped him like a rock. Story 33. Finding out that a close friend had been diverting his mortgage money to support a second family in another state. Story 34. Yesterday, I saw a grown man get kicked out of a 7-year-old baseball game. He had yelled at his own players in the middle of the field, had multiple arguments with the umpire, and after receiving a warning, was still complaining to the umpire. You would think the embarrassment of being kicked out of a 7-year-old baseball game would humble a person, but he was bragging to anyone who would listen to him in the parking lot. After the game, he ran up to his team as if he were some type of hero. There is absolutely no respect for people like that. Story 35. Talking about sexual exploits with other women, we had a longtime single friend in a serious relationship with a really nice woman. They were in 4-H with his daughter for years alongside us. We were good family friends, and we liked his significant other. One time when we were out, he started sharing extremely detailed stories about his sexual exploits with this nice woman. I was shocked that he would do that. I related the story word for word to my wife, and she was astonished that he would behave that way. We are not prudes, but we were so unsettled by his actions that, even though he pursued a relationship with my family for several years afterward, we cut him off. I could never look at her the same way, truth or not. His character revealed itself over the years, proving us right in our decision to cut him off. A good person just doesn't behave that way. There are more appropriate places for those stories if someone is interested. Story 36. I discovered that my friend, who is married, has a girlfriend he visits while traveling for work. I cannot spend time with him anymore. Story 37. Racist ideology, arrogance, and insecurity complex are undesirable traits. However, I also do not appreciate these traits in women. Story 38. I witnessed him cheating on his girlfriend. The next day, I informed her and blocked him everywhere. I ended my friendship with another guy after I heard him verbally abuse his partner, making her cry in front of our friends. I removed that negativity from my life as well. The rest of my male friends are good people, and I am very selective about who I choose to associate with. Story 39. Years ago, a man was in a heated argument with his wife on the phone while we were out drinking. This was a pointless drunken fight, and they ended their marriage. After hanging up, now a single man, he immediately started calling various women to try to hook up. This changed my perception of him forever. Story 40. We ran out of gas and walked to a station. The attendant did not want to lend us a gas can because others had taken it. We promised to bring it back. When we got the car running, my friend thought it would be funny to steal it. Story 41. During an assembly in high school, some of the special education students became a little loud, and my teacher expressed his opinion that they should not be there and should have their own school. The role model turned into a loser just like that. Story 42. Recently, a coworker told me he was happy when they found O.J. Simpson not guilty. I can't see him the same way again. Story 43. When they try to act tough or disrespectful to me in the presence of women, I often jokingly match their energy or make fun of them to humiliate them. I then loudly tell them to stop acting inappropriately when women are around. Story 44. There is a couple in our large group of friends who, whenever we go out to dinner, orders multiple beers from any waiter or busboy who passes by the table. They often switch roles, making it as confusing as possible. When the bill arrives, they dispute the number of beers ordered. They create a fuss to get a few taken off the bill and then do not tip, claiming the waiter was trying to deceive them. This happens every year. Story 45. Cheaters, criminals, bullies, not offering help when it's needed, like when someone is struggling to carry something heavy and just making a joke about it, is not right. People should use their strength to assist others. Muscles are not valuable if not used for good. Being wealthy does not make anyone superior to others. Story 46. My dad disowned me. I never truly hated him. I actually looked up to him. However, after he said that, I developed a deep resentment toward him. I vowed to never be like him and lost all respect for him. I would never treat anyone the way he treated my mom or me. He was a terrible person, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. Story 47. When they scream at the television in a bar, I don't care what sports game it is. Keep your testosterone to yourself. Story 48. I saw a colleague run to get inside when it was raining, and I have felt differently about him ever since. Story 49. An old coworker was having a really bad day once. After everything was said and done with the task we were working on, he lashed out at me. Earlier in the shift, I discovered an error he made and corrected it for him. I didn't say anything and was not going to either, but since he was upset with me, I politely pointed out the mistake he had made. He laughed and then implied I was lying. He said he didn't want to talk for the rest of the trip unless it was work-related. I thought it was no big deal and figured he just needed a little time to deal with whatever he was going through. A month later, I left the job. About 8 months later, he contacted me through social media and started insulting me. He threatened me and even tried to involve my child in the conversation. A few months later, he found me on another platform and began making negative comments on some of my posts. He eventually deleted the account. I had helped him a lot when he first started at the job. I stood up for him when people talked negatively about him or spread false rumors. He destroyed every bit of respect I had for him. Story 50. Being disrespectful towards others is unproductive. I have had employees referred to me by other supervisors who would not work for them but were willing to put in a great effort for me. This was because I treated my team with respect and not as if I were above them. Story 51. Flirting with his girlfriend's best friend to arrange a threesome without ever discussing it with her. Story 52. It was many years ago, but I will never forget it. A longtime friend who had moved to another province invited me over for a visit while I was driving through his area on a road trip. He provided me with a place to stay. As I mentioned, we were old friends. On my last night with him, I offered to buy him and his girlfriend dinner. They politely declined but said that if I wanted to buy the food, he would do the cooking. I agreed. We went to a grocery store, but after a quick look in the meat department, he suggested we try a different store. We left the store, and before I even started my vehicle, he pulled 2 large packs of ribeyes from under his sweater. His girlfriend pulled about 4 bottles of shampoo, conditioner, and hairspray from her sweater. I was speechless and said nothing. We drove back to their apartment, and I received a phone call saying my mother was ill and that I had to leave. I never saw or spoke to him again. That was 27 years ago. Story 53. A man I know went on a week-long hunting trip the day after his wife had a cesarean section for their 3rd child. His argument was that the elk tag was difficult to obtain. Story 54. Threatened a woman with violence. Rude and humiliating to others, especially regarding things they cannot control. Complete lack of awareness. Story 55. Somebody recently told me that he does not spend any money on veterinary care for his pets. I still like the man, but I lost some respect for him in that moment. Pets are family. They trust us to take care of them, and we owe it to them to give them great lives. He is an older man, and I must note that people from older generations often have different attitudes regarding pets because societal norms for how pets were treated were different in the past. While this does not excuse the attitude, it helps to understand it. Story 56. You know those people who brag about the horrible things they've done? How they've taken advantage of someone, ruined someone else's relationship, sold something for much more than it's worth, or got away with a crime. Isn't it cool how terrible I am? They type. Story 57. In high school, I was walking home with a group of friends, and we were discussing which girls we thought were attractive. One of the guys mentioned a girl that most of us found appealing, and another guy remarked, "Yeah, man, honestly, if it were legal, I would take advantage of her." The atmosphere instantly shifted, and that guy went from being seemingly normal to acting very strangely. Story 58. 100% hitting on all my female friends, my ex-girlfriend's lesbian best friend, and eventually my ex herself. Absolute jerk. Story 59. Men who become aggressive when they drink too much, or perhaps just individuals who cannot enjoy drinking without getting into trouble. Story 60. Bragging about cheating on his girlfriend multiple times and excusing himself, he said, "Yeah, I know it's wrong, but if I drink, I get horny, you know?" Story 61. Frequent one-upmanship occurs when individuals believe they are superior to others due to their wealth. They justify their financial status by convincing themselves that they are smarter, more clever, or possess a better work ethic than everyone else. Story 62. He thinks about having casual relationships with different girls without any serious commitment. This attitude is a turn-off for me. He has told some of those girls that he has other girlfriends, yet they still try to be with him or have a physical relationship. I feel sorry for them. Story 63. My best friend slept with my other best friend's wife. We were all in a band together. They are divorced now, but he still doesn't know. We remain friends, but I lost a lot of respect for him when I found out. I gave him a serious lecture, and he seemed remorseful. It was a one-time thing, but it is still not acceptable. Story 64. Not picking up the tab every once in a while is a concern. I have a cousin, a 40-year-old man, who goes out to eat with others and is embarrassingly cheap. For example, when the group splits a pizza, he will only pay for the 2 slices he ate rather than dividing the cost equally. Even if there are 2 pieces left over, the others are still required to pay the difference. Story 65-1. He essentially admitted to stalking and lightly threatening his ex-girlfriend, but was completely oblivious to the fact that is what he did. He tried to pursue a mutual friend even after she politely told him she wasn't interested, doubling down on his efforts and becoming almost aggressive about it. Story 66. I just found out that someone I know donates to Adam Schiff. I lost a lot of respect for him after that. Story 67. Recently, I discovered that a good friend of mine assaulted his wife while she was sleeping. Additionally, it seems their entire relationship was insincere, as he would behave badly when no one else was around. I also learned that one of my close friends was aware of this, and when I asked him if he intended to continue being friends with someone who committed such an act, he answered affirmatively without hesitation. Then he had the audacity to call me, upset and crying, asking why I was blocking him on all platforms. I lost 2 friends last month, but nothing of value was lost. Story 68. I will give you 2 examples since one was a woman and not a man. A colleague I worked with was talking to me one day at lunch. A new woman walked by, and I knew he had gone out with her. He began to tell me what a freak she was in bed and what she liked to have done to her. I hadn't asked, we weren't discussing sex. He just saw her and felt he should start speaking negatively about her. I was instantly disgusted by him. I don't care if your date was inappropriate. You don't need to share those details with acquaintances. Everyone deserves privacy and basic respect. As for the woman, I had been receiving non-sexual massages from her for a while, and she seemed like a kind and loving person. Then one day, in the middle of a massage, she started talking about how awful gay people were. I was stunned. After a few minutes, she realized I wasn't engaging with her and changed the subject, but it was too late. I never went back to her and wondered how many other people I knew were homophobic, just waiting until they thought it was safe to reveal their true selves. Story 69. I ran into an old friend of mine at a party. He told me he was single, but at the time, his Instagram account still had pictures of him with his girlfriend. I am certain that guy went to the party to cheat. Story 70. Hitting a woman, boasting about infidelity, and refusing to engage in a physical confrontation when challenged by another man. Story 71. Recently, a colleague was fired from my job. He consistently acted as if he were always right, despite having only worked with us for 2 months. He clashed with everyone, particularly those younger than him. He is around 40 years old and attempted to tell me how to do my job. I am relatively high on the organizational ladder, especially compared to him, and I have significantly more experience in our work. He kept trying to instruct me as if I didn't know how to do my tasks, and I chose to let it slide. I wasn't looking to confront anyone. I just wanted to get the job done. However, when he began to make incorrect statements, I told him directly that he was mistaken. After 2 instances of this, he confronted me, claiming he had kids my age and knew what he was talking about, disregarding my tenure at the company. My supervisor overheard the commotion and clearly stated that there was a reason I earned nearly double what he did. This feedback upset his fragile ego. He decided to leave in a huff, throwing his hat on the ground. He was fired, technically for walking out, but we all know that the real reason was the difficulty of working with him. Goodbye, as no one appreciated him. In my experience, individuals with age-related biases and fragile egos quickly lose my respect. Story 72. Men who make no effort with their children or who sign away their parental rights often feel jealous when someone dates their ex after the relationship has ended. I had a neighbor who confronted me for years because I had a brief relationship with his ex 10 years ago, nearly a year after she ended their relationship. He is now engaged to someone else. Story 73. Typically, it's when you find out they have been cheating on their spouse and they have children. Why even get married? Story 74. When a former friend dated 5 women simultaneously, it was shocking. He was not the typical person who casually dates multiple people. He would genuinely buy flowers, pursue phone numbers, and promise marriage. He ingratiated himself with women who were often hesitant sweethearts. Once he got what he wanted, he would discard them and move on to someone else. It baffled me that he ignored the women who clearly indicated they wanted fun without any serious commitment, just to hurt those who were seeking a relationship. You might think it's not my business, right? Wrong. We all worked together and things got out of hand quickly. I wondered why he would do this to our team. He was diabolical and was making nice guys appear to be manipulative liars since he pretended to be one. Story 75, he bothered the girl. I don't know how it happened, but I witnessed it. I walked over and asked him to come with me, and I took him to his house. After that, we didn't communicate and I don't want to know him. Story 76. No future prospects, no ambition, and no aim in life create an idle existence. He woke up, did nothing, slept, and repeated the cycle. Story 77. Nothing treats everybody the same, showing favor and ignoring the person standing next to someone else. Story 78. A man who goes through a whole 5-hour wedding and refuses to dance with his wife even once. Not even during the one obligatory slow dance. Story 79. He tried to connect with me by boasting about how poorly he treats the mother of his child. Not today. Story 80. He cheated on his girlfriend, and it turned out to be a pattern of behavior that would repeat with every future partner. His current girlfriend has his child, and he cheats on her when he travels to Southeast Asia. We call him K9 and he hates it. Story 81. For me, it was a guy I used to be friends with. He told me in great detail why I needed to apologize to 2 of my other friends because I had started a family and no longer wanted to drink excessively every weekend. It was honestly mind-boggling. Story 82. I had a friend in high school. We were inseparable and always hanging out. He seemed like a good guy, or so I thought. One day, his ex-girlfriend approached me and told me he had hit her. I assumed she was trying to get him into trouble and ignored it, as I was young. Later, while walking through the hall, I saw him arguing with his current girlfriend. She lightly pushed him away because he was crowding her. He then put his hand on her forehead and slammed her head into the wall. He did not make it to homeroom that day. Story 83. My friend and I really bonded over being family men. We were both married with children, just living the dream. Then he cheated on his wife with a coworker and left his wife and children for her. I tried to support him, but I was honestly sick to my stomach that he could betray his family like that. I haven't spoken to him in a while now. Story 84. The individual who showed me a collage of girls' private parts claimed he had a Helldivers 2 meme. He didn't look gentle at all. I noticed one girl in the pictures appeared to be bleeding. He asked if I wanted one, and I just looked at him with a glare that said, "Say that again and I'll break your kneecaps." He then tried to sell me snooze afterward without any regrets or an apology. Why are fans of Andrew Tate like this? Story 85. My father has been declining in my opinion since I turned 9 years old. Recently, when a cousin of mine was assaulted, he made the comment, "Well, I don't know what she expected. She's been parading around in her underwear since she was 15. Story 86. I am sure this has been said, but cheating on a spouse or significant other shows a lack of self-control and disrespect for someone you supposedly care about. It can destroy a person mentally, and the general response is that it meant nothing, which implies you sacrificed a meaningful relationship for nothing. The more committed you are to each other, the more devastating it becomes. Story 87. I was recruiting for my job at our local state college. A colleague I was working with went to the nursing station to get his blood pressure checked. He returned, excited that his elbow had touched a college student's chest. He went back again, and I was annoyed and completely lost respect for him. Looking back, I wish I had done more than just roll my eyes at the time. Story 88. My best friend allowed someone he didn't like to steal his identity, and he could have informed the person. Story 89. Taking back his wife who cheated, got caught, filed for divorce, moved out, got a new job, then could not handle it, lost the baby and the new man who was also married and then returned. Story 90. I ended my contact with someone who felt comfortable expressing racist views around me. I do not need negative people in my life. Story 91. A man who does not show gratitude for his partner or others in his life often fails to express "thank you" and "I appreciate you." These phrases carry significant weight. Many times, a relationship falls apart because love and appreciation are not verbally expressed enough. While this may not be everyone's way of showing love, it is important to communicate feelings rather than assume they are understood. Story 92. Knowing he has children with different women but always seems to have nice things, the newest vehicles, is at the gym all the time and goes out partying. Those children may be getting financial support, though I sometimes doubt it, but absent fathers create many issues in our society. Story 93. Men who treat service workers poorly, men who disrespect women, men who feel the need to put others down to make themselves look better, and men who insist on being right all the time and handle being wrong immaturely. Story 94. Low to no self-love and respect, constant negativity and rude behavior towards others affect how individuals conduct themselves in relationships, whether with friends, family, or romantic partners. Story 95. Becoming overly defensive and yelling over minor disagreements due to his excessive pride. Story 96. Always complaining about the same issue without making any effort to change it is unproductive. It's normal to express frustration occasionally, but if it consistently revolves around the same topic, especially one that could be easily resolved, it indicates a comfort in playing the victim. This mindset often accompanies individuals who avoid taking responsibility, preferring to blame others instead of reflecting on their own actions. Story 97. My boss is playing one team member against another, wasting an immense amount of time and energy. Some individuals can become tyrants when given authority. Story 98. A coworker and friend of mine is in his late 20s. He is a good guy, smart and outgoing. He started chatting online with a single mother who moved to Norway from another country. During the winter holidays, they met up and acted like a family. He became infatuated, and after the holidays, she returned to Norway. A few months later, he quit his job and moved to be with her. He is now working at a fish factory, processing salmon to support her and her child. This was an easy situation to avoid, but he willingly chose it. What a decision. Story 99. To me, it's when friends insult each other with strong language, like, "shut up," and "you're being unreasonable." Story 100. Letting my girlfriend declare that she loves me right in front of him without doing anything about it was strange. She knew I had a crush on someone else and would often ask me for more details about that crush, encouraging me to share what I wanted to do for or with him. High school was peculiar in that way. Story 101. I knew a guy for a while through work and we connected pretty well until I went to his house and heard how he spoke to his wife. He treated her poorly. I stepped back from gatherings after that. If you are unhappy, leave the relationship. Focus on improving your situation and work from there. Story 102. Back in high school, my friends and I were messing around on the beach. My friend group included me, a chill guy we'll call Larry, and a girl we'll refer to as Sam. We found a small log and started rolling it around the beach. Larry and I called it a totem and began making caveman noises. Sam's ex-boyfriend and a few other students were with us on the beach, just hanging around doing their own thing. We'll call the ex-boyfriend Max. Max and I had been friends since elementary school, as had Larry. Max saw Sam enjoying herself with us and having fun. He grabbed the log and started trying to push it into the sea. We told him repeatedly to stop, but he just laughed and ignored us. Eventually, Sam said something that I can't quite remember that upset him. I recall it being fairly mellow and not that offensive. But Max went crazy. He started screaming at her, picked up the log, and threw it into the ocean. Some of the other students tried to calm him down while he called Sam horrible names. I stood there in disbelief as he insulted my friend. My feelings started to well up, and I thought about punching him for a moment. Eventually, I shouted at him to shut up, and he began trying to explain himself like he was the victim in all this. Sam was crying at this point because of all the horrible things he was saying about her, and the entire beach was watching his public breakdown. Eventually, Larry convinced him to leave, and he walked him home, allowing him to vent. It was only recently that I got in touch with Sam again. She lives in another state now and showed me messages from Max. Apparently, he is still trying to win her back by messaging her on social media, alternating between saying she was the best thing that ever happened to him and calling her terrible names. She blocked him, but he keeps creating alternate accounts to contact her again. It's been 8 years, and he's still obsessed with her. It's insane. Story 103. I lost all love and respect for my father after he cheated and threw us out of the house to move in with his mistress, only to come back a few years later because she was abusing him. Story 104. The fact that he lacked the courage to come to me directly when he had another problem in the family is disappointing. Instead, he sent a mass text to everyone in a group chat, complaining about the answer I gave his wife regarding budgeting, after she asked me. So, I confronted him in the same chat, calling him gutless and telling him that if he wants to claim to be a man, he needs to have the courage and respect to speak to me face to face about any issues he has. Of course, many of the women in the family said I was being too harsh and have since stopped including me in social events. Who knew I would have won twice from that exchange? Story 105. My manager disapproved of me dating a colleague from a different team, which turned out to be ironic because he himself displayed inappropriate behavior. I am a manager in a large corporation with at least 20 different processes and 300 employees in each process. I started dating a colleague who joined at an entry level in a different process. We enjoyed each other's company and decided to date. I proactively informed human resources and my reporting manager about our relationship. Since we were not in the same team or process and I had no influence over her career, it did not seem to be an issue for anyone except for this one manager. Because I did not report to him directly, he felt he could ignore me. He initially made personal comments about my girlfriend, which I firmly asked him to stop. After that, he remained resentful and continued to comment on the workplace culture, which often annoyed me. He would say things like, "I don't know how a manager could date an employee." His jealousy was evident. He had approached my girlfriend unsuccessfully and had attempted to pursue around 15 other women in our team. One employee, who was married, had a concerning encounter with him when he randomly video called her on a Saturday night, which led her to involve human resources. I had little respect for him as I could see he struggled to manage his own behavior. However, I always believed hypocrisy had its limits. Story 106. I kissed a girl I was talking to and made her perform a sexual act. This guy was one of my best friends, and now I dislike him intensely. He has also committed other actions, such as physically abusing his peers. What an awful person. Story 107. Running out on his tab at the bar. We work in the industry and you're going to do that? I also discovered he associates with many bigots. Story 108. He refuses to get a job because he considers himself a creative and an entrepreneur, believing that menial jobs are beneath him. Meanwhile, he, his wife, and their small child are living on credit cards that are nearly maxed out, and the family has not had a payday in 2 years. Story 109. Hearing him blame, demean, and belittle his wife in front of me, who is a good childhood friend and has done nothing wrong, is alarming. If he speaks to her like that in public, I can only imagine what happens behind closed doors. Story 110. Bragging about cheating on your wife during business trips is concerning. How can I trust you if you are willing to betray your spouse? Story 111. Several behaviors can quickly lead to a loss of respect for someone. Disrespecting their parents in private conversations with me or others. Demeaning their spouse or partner in private conversations with me or others. A person who cannot remain loyal to their parents or partner is likely to speak negatively about me to others in the future. From a values perspective, it becomes difficult to trust them, making it impossible to maintain any respect for them. Story 112. He complains about every job he gets and doesn't stay in one position for more than a year. Instead, he relies on his family and friends because he cannot get his life together. He is too focused on feeling sorry for himself to make any meaningful changes, and thus the cycle continues. Story 113. There is a person I know who repeatedly cheats on his wife without any remorse. She is a wonderful, kind, and beautiful lady. He is not a good person. Story 114. Trying to act cool in front of my girl, trying to show off, impress, or say things he normally wouldn't say or act a certain way if a female wasn't around. I hate that. It's probably one of the reasons I don't have any friends. It's so hard to find real ones these days. Story 115. Persistently introducing himself as someone who used to date my mother. It has been more than 30 years, Andy. Move on and emphasize your connection to my family through your friendship with my uncle. Story 116. Men who are aggressive towards women or anyone smaller and weaker do so to compensate for their insecurities, pretending to be an alpha. When you know that you can cause real damage, it is usually best not to demonstrate it. Kindness and patience, especially in difficult situations, are essential. That is the way. Story 117. I was at a friend's housewarming party. Another friend was there, and we were watching Xbox compilations of professional Call of Duty players. I was never into that game or Xbox, but I sat through them anyway because he seemed passionate about it. I noticed that none of the players were women, so I pointed out how unusual that was, and he immediately gave me a weak excuse for why guys are better at video games due to adrenaline or something similar. I don't connect with guys like that. Story 118. A politician claims he is resigning because his family cannot handle his absence. Later, it is revealed that the real reason is that he was caught engaging in inappropriate behavior in a men's restroom. Story 119. Mistreating women, children, animals, and service workers or making excuses for those who do is unacceptable. Many individuals I know have lost my respect for defending these behaviors. Story 120. I had a friend who was talking about another buddy coming out as gay. He relayed to me how he asked the guy, "So you like men?" It was cruel, thoughtless, and uncaring toward his friend. I knew I didn't want to be the next friend he didn't care about. Story 121. Making fun of a disabled person is unacceptable. Some users on Reddit express their frustrations, saying, "I hate my life. I have to actually work to support myself until I retire. I need a life hack." It's concerning to hear such comments. A good friend of mine divorced his wife, packed up, and started a new life in Australia, leaving his 2 young children behind without looking back. Another friend of mine had a questionable character and began a relationship with a religious girl who came from a wealthy family. Suddenly, he started to embrace religion, even though we had previously discussed that he was not a fan. Story 122. He keeps lying repeatedly even after being caught each time. He is 22 years old and continues to lie to this day. Story 123. A close friend of mine recently ended his relationship with his partner, who has faced some challenges. He left her with 3 children and, from what I understand, has not been spending time with them. I will be meeting with him on Wednesday for a difficult conversation, which could mark the end of our long-standing friendship. Story 124. Anyone who does not take their responsibilities as a businessman, husband, or father seriously will lose my respect for them completely. Story 125. Being disrespectful towards women on the street and in a bar. Treating his employees poorly. He yelled at a server in a restaurant. He lost his temper in traffic while I was a passenger. He turned the stereo up to full volume while driving next to the school zone. He thought he was impressing people, but they were actually saying, "What a jerk," driving home for lunch and parking in a way that blocks me in until he returns to work. When I explained that I needed to get out, he did not respond or move his car. He continued this behavior for months until I blocked him in and reciprocated. I dislike being petty with neighbors. These are not all the same person. They are different individuals I have known over the years. Story 126. When my roommate's buddy said that his childhood best friend is in the hospital and only has a few months to live, he laughed and added, "No, not really, but that's what I tell girls, and they always let me take them home after that." Story 127. I worked with a man named Jamie Felix at a dealership group in the Midwest. He was very friendly and supportive, always wanting to train together and partner up for challenges. He repeatedly requested pictures from my fiancée. She took screenshots of every message he sent her and forwarded them to me. Story 128. I attended a business lunch and observed a man completely disrespecting all of the restaurant staff and others working in our area. I was eager to leave and not encounter him again. Story 129. I remember one of my friends unexpectedly told me he was cheating on his wife with a married woman. He also mentioned that her husband or his wife would find out soon. My respect for him dropped significantly. I couldn't think of anything to say and just stopped responding to him after that. Story 130. Leaning in to drop the offensive word without anyone else hearing, as if I'm some kind of racist like them. Story 131. I once talked to a girl who was the cousin of a friend. We discussed a topic and I provided my analysis. She expressed her opinion, but it was clear she had little knowledge of the subject. She became upset when I pointed out her lack of understanding and became defensive. Another guy came in to defend her, but he clearly didn't know anything and seemed more interested in her romantically. No matter how much I emphasized her lack of understanding or pointed out his ignorance on the topic, he refused to back down. It was foolish of him to step in, to not back down, and to continue arguing. I can't help but lose respect for those who jump in without knowledge and are too proud to admit they are wrong. Story 132. When I was single and worked as a sailor, I had a drinking buddy that I loved hanging out with during my leave. Eventually, I met his family and realized that when he was out drinking with me, he was ignoring his children and his girlfriend, who was not their mother and did not want to take on maternal responsibilities. I was enabling his absence as a father. I lost a lot of respect for him that day, but also for myself, for not realizing what I was doing. This years later now, I am a carpenter and no longer drink. He found religion and embraced his Jewish faith. I am building a wedging table for his wife, a different woman who enjoys maternal roles, to use for pottery, and a quiet room for his teenage autistic daughter, who used to resent me because I was the guy her dad would disappear to go drinking with. So we are both regaining the respect we lost. Story 133. A colleague proudly tells me about every single bad employee he is able to fire. He really enjoys feeling powerful and having control over others. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but behavior like that instantly shows a lack of respect. Story 134. A guy I was friends with in elementary school contacted me on Messenger one day after several years of not talking. It was a friendly conversation, but I was busy and left him hanging a bit. The next day, he sent a single word, N***********. He is white and I am white. However, my girlfriend at the time, now fiancé, is black. I don't know why he said that to me, but I suppose I can make a safe guess. Story 135. I had a horrible boss, really an unpleasant person. From the start, I disliked him. After a year, he bought a girl's Lego set and I asked him why. It turned out he has a daughter who lives with her mother, which he never mentioned. He seemed to want recognition for this because he only has to send a present once a year, and the rest of the time he can relax without any responsibilities. Story 136. Abusing an employee because of a perceived power dynamic is a common issue. Those who engage in such behavior often lack true courage. Story 137. Wrecking marriages. I knew a divorced man who, while he claimed to be very religious, broke up several marriages by seducing married women. He even went so far as to seek an annulment of his first marriage so he could marry one of his mistresses, who was also married with children. After he wrecked her marriage, he left her 3 months later. This man has done this so many times that his nickname is Elizabeth Taylor. Story 138. General ego. The kind where individuals believe they are perfect, but the moment things don't go their way, there is chaos. At my last job, we were allowed to have a community playlist playing over a speaker. No explicit songs were allowed, but anything else was acceptable. As long as the work got done, it was workplace appropriate, and we didn't play it too loud. We could keep it on the playlist all day. One person decided he didn't want to listen to music from white artists and switched it to an exclusively rap playlist. I changed it back to the original playlist and suggested he add songs he wanted to listen to, which he refused to do. We went back and forth on this for a week until the boss got wind of the situation and took the radio away. This caused the individual to start crying, claiming, "It was all a joke." The kicker? The person I was arguing with over the playlist didn't even work there. He would spend only about 3 minutes at a time in the area where he could hear it for 2 hours before going off to flirt with the girls in another department, despite having a girlfriend. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.